age kind of came to a close. And by Detroit being one of the major industrial hubs in America, the city was kind of like just depleted because the robots took over most of the manufacturing jobs.
They experimented with new electro sounds and were celebrated as techno rebels.
It was just a kid and later some more kids just tinkering with this new technology. You know, a lot of this was kind of spontaneous. I mean, nobody had a blueprint or a plan. I mean, we had an idea of things, what we wanted to do, sort of like an experiment. You mix a lot of different ingredients, and the result came out 10 times better than we thought it would come out, you know.
Change of location, Berlin. Alan Oldham's Finissage. He produced the music for the evening himself. Oldham started out as a radio host in Detroit, later illustrated for indie labels, and then became a DJ.
My art has always been the way it is, but it just seemed to, when techno came along, it seemed to fit along with the Afrofuturistic or the science fiction element.
From the beginning of the 90s, Alan Oldham got involved in the techno scene as a member of the DJ collective Underground Resistance, known as UR.
No one man was bigger than the music. And the music, it was the message, not the personality. And we all had code names, and I chose T1000 for mine. He was the cutting edge nanotechnology Terminator. Superior to Arnold in every way, right? So that's the basis behind my DJ name.
Salvation in a Dystopian World was how Alan Oldham depicted techno in a comic book for the techno label Plus 8 in the early 90s.
They asked me to do a comic book for their label. It's like, hey man, you know, just come up with something cool. UR is there. The Detroit police are robots, but UR hates the robot cops. So there you go. The others in the resistance group, they're trying to restart this thing called the random noise generator, which creates music, creates techno music. And they install the device, and then the random noise generator shakes to life. And then you see all the electricity and sound waves coming out of it. And here's all the sound waves, techno. And it's touching everywhere on the planet. That's basically what that was.
This is how techno conquered the world.
Absolutely, but from Detroit.
The hype around Detroit's budding scene soon made its way around the globe, pushed by music freaks, promoters and night owls, until finding its second home in Berlin. DJs from the US were flown in to get the city's dance floors churning. Still, the US scene remained firmly rooted in the underground, never gaining traction in the mainstream. So why did it come up in Europe?
The white audience were the ones who liked techno. A lot of black people did not like it. They did not get it. There was no rapping in it. There was no singing. It was all one thing. It was repetitive.
And repetitive proved to be the key to Berliners' hearts. Techno became the new soundtrack of the city.
When it became Berlin, then it became centralized. And then more Detroit guys started coming over. You know, Trezor was crucial in this.
Techno was undoubtedly a creation of African-American communities across the Atlantic, a fact that has largely escaped public consciousness. Because it was in Berlin where techno found mainstream appeal.
I think when the guys developed the Detroit sound in Detroit, nobody cared about the music. And it was the right forum for them to play their music here. And they helped a lot to build up the whole DJ culture, the German DJ culture again. They motivated a lot of people.
Paul van Dyk was born in 1971 in an industrial town in the GDR and grew up in East Berlin. Like many young Germans, he fell in love with the new sound from Detroit.
It's simple, really. I play the music because I love it. I'm a total fanatic. I really don't DJ because I can make any money with it.
A few years later, Paul van Dyk made his breakthrough, becoming one of the most successful DJs in the world, and the money started flowing. Techno for the masses.
Years before, it was very slow. There was really not a real nightlife, a happy nightlife. And when house came over, acid house and then techno, it was great. You know, we've had weekends where I think about 10,000 people in Berlin moved from one club to the other club. You know, the rest of the story is that it became too known. We tried to keep people away, but it didn't work out. Journalists came, also international magazines started writing about the Tresor Club and about this movement techno in Berlin, and then we had a problem that too many people came here. They just wanted to see what is new. It became a bit touristic after 6 months. But the first 6 months of Tresor is history, you know.
Female DJs like Ellen Arlien also started taking off. She's one of the most important representatives of the Berlin techno scene to this day. Ellen Arlien produces electronic music and runs the label B-Pitch Control. Tresor is like a second home to her, although her roots are in hip-hop. But the elusive underground scene of techno fascinated her from the start.
That's why actually I went in techno clubs to go far away from the hip-hop scene, because the hip-hop scene was really rude. It's not because I could dance so well on techno, I didn't know how to move because it was too fast for me as a hip-hopper. And then after a while I learned dancing on techno music. I understood how I can move my body fast.
Love Parade marked the start of a new era for the genre. What started with only a few hundred visitors soon drew hundreds of thousands, many under the influence of the party drug ecstasy. Ravers from the world over came to Berlin to be part of the spectacle. 1999 saw an incredible 1.5 million attend.
You know, back in the rave times, it was just a lot of drugs. People did parties, you know, whatever. But now it's an emphasis on community. It's an emphasis on kind of leaving things better than when you found it. And I think that a lot of young people want to create their own spaces. And this is the soundtrack for it.
So what does techno actually mean? To find out, we delved into the archive of youth culture in Berlin's Kreuzberg district. Here, documents, fanzines, magazines, posters and more are compiled, keeping the history of youth and subculture alive.
Here we have the Atonal Festival program from 1990. You could say that this was maybe the first techno festival in Germany. The term techno occurs, but not so often. They talk mostly of house here. But at one point they start speaking of the so-called techno scene. The word is in quotation marks, so it wasn't yet really clear what they really meant by techno.
It has a different meaning for everyone. I mean, you know, techno can also be melodic, and it can also be chill. But for me, primarily, techno means more aggressive.
Techno is everything you haven't imagined yet. That's according to Jeff Mills, legendary DJ and musician. Poetic, yes, but not quite the answer Anita Jori has been looking for. She works at Berlin's University of the Arts and has been researching techno for several years.
In German, techno with a capital T has a huge meaning. It's an umbrella term which collects, let's say, all underground events and music-related happenings, and also the music itself is part of it. It has something you can identify it, or you can explain it's something that is underground, something that is locally organized. But this is a huge confusion, especially in international circumstances, because in English, techno, with not a capital T, means simply a genre, a music genre, one of the genres of electronic dance music.
Techno ist eigentlich zuallererst irgendwie so eine harte.
First and foremost, the beat in techno is harder.
Elektronische Tanzmusik.
Compared to house, techno features less of the soul-y vocals and is generally faster, harder, and darker.
Härter, düsterer.
For some, though, techno also means excessive drug consumption.
There will always be this simplification of the club culture, that it's just about taking drugs, that it's just about hedonism and escapism. But I think now in the 21st century we cannot say that anymore. Most of the people, they go out because of the club, they go out because of the lineup, they go out because of the music, they go out because of the atmosphere.
There was always this link, this idea of which we all think about, what's going on in the air, you know, what's going on in the space, and trying to connect with it in a way, trying to be not afraid of it. The music has something robotic and can be very distorted too. Techno is also minimal. The machines, they made also that kind of spacey sounds.
A lot of electronic music is based on the gear that you use.
303, Roland, 909, faster than 140 BPM.
And that's why it's called techno, because it's technologically advanced gear.
It's underground at the end.
For Juan Atkins, it all started in the underground, where he began spinning records in the 1980s. He's long since become legendary in the techno scene, but status was never a big deal for him.
My job is to entertain, because, you know, I come from an era where, you know, before the DJ was famous and this big, the DJ's got all his accolades, all your job was to do is to keep the floor busy, or to keep people smiling and happy and dancing. And a lot of that is still in me from when I first started.
These days, Juan Atkins doesn't only fill dance floors, but also the foyer of Berlin's venerable Philharmonic.
Actually, I had no idea that I would even be leaving Detroit or going around the world, you know.
From the underground to the hallowed halls of classical music, the Strom Festival brings together the entire spectrum of electronic music, turning techno into high culture.
The time has come that this music is being welcomed here as well. That's quite a statement.
Techno built its own institutions, and now we're at a level where one set of institutions notices the other and see like, well, maybe it's interesting what you're doing. And we're still in the Philharmonie Berlin, the lights go on.
It shows that, first of all, we were ahead of our time. I was ahead of my time, I think. And it shows the staying power. Because I had this vision of the future, then it's kind of perpetuating itself now, because that was kind of the idea.
While Detroit's African American communities are finally receiving long overdue recognition for inventing techno, the important role played by women artists and the queer scene is still under-acknowledged. A local cult TV show gave a feeling for what was going on in Detroit at the time. It wasn't the DJs who were the stars, but the dancers.
To go back and watch some of them and to see the outfits and see the dancing will always be extremely unique, and that type of thing will never be repeated. It just won't. And the influence that had on generations will always be And so anyone to look at them even now, they'll look at it and go like, what? And see some of the moves and some of the things that people were doing, and oh my God. Detroit sound is funky. I don't care what they say. I know they say it's the home of techno, and yes, techno was created there, but the house came first, then techno.
1, 2, 3. Only now the question is, who did what when? And what did they bring to the scene?
I got the biggest kick of flipping the record over. But I thought, how cool is that? Because this is a real factory now. This was not a fake factory. They were really working.
Unlike the DJs at the turntables.
Oh no, it wasn't nothing plugged up, but we looked like we was good, wasn't it? We looked like we were getting it. I don't care what it is. Every type of music happens because of some other type of music.
The film Black to Techno re-examines the story and also highlights the role women played in Detroit.
It's never one history. We are talking about thousands of different histories and stories. And that's how we silence out people like the queer community or the female DJs and producers from that time, because there's no books or sources existing on their stories. So this is why I think it's now we are in this moment that we have to push, further their stories and not only always asking the same people what happened.
Just some of the opportunities that were given to men were not given as well to women. And so we had to still kick down doors to make things happen. And we're just now, in this last decade, getting the recognition. It's not like we weren't there.
Ken Collier, Detroit's top DJ of the 1970s and 80s, taught Stacey Hale everything she knows. She quickly made a name for herself as a house DJ and became part of Detroit's queer music scene. The fact that they also had a major influence on the development of techno is only now re-emerging.
I think what is happening, that they're doing their homework and they're reaching out to, so thank God here's social media, because at the time that I was evolving, there was no social, it was a paper flyer, a text on a pager, and a phone call.
Stacey Hale has been DJing, producing, teaching, and doing radio shows for about 40 years. She's one of the few female DJs of her generation to make a name for herself in Detroit. Berlin. People are now taking an interest in what those on the other side of the Atlantic were up to so many years ago. And not just anywhere, but in the city's most famous and infamous techno club, Berghain. Only a select few are allowed in here, and that goes for everyone, even DJs.
I know that it had a history and is well respected. And, that's all I know. So my friends, once they found out I was going to be here, they just said it is the place. So I had no idea.
These days, the Berlin club scene aims for more diversity in lineups to reflect the real roots of techno and the whole spectrum of electronic music.
I knew of many things going on, but most of the time things like this, was all skewed to the men. And so getting this opportunity to come here to represent, I'm so excited.
Berlin, the city where techno made it big, has emerged as one of the most important music metropolises in the world. And Stacey Hale now finally has the chance to contribute to it.
I want to tell a story. To me, that's what DJing is about. And I think in any culture that, again, playing music, even if it's a sad time happening in the world or within the city or even in your home, you put on music to change your feeling inside.
It's all about letting loose and feeling the moment, wherever you are, in Berlin, Detroit, or anywhere else. At the Movement Festival, the birthplace of techno is rediscovering its roots and celebrates electronic music.